Long before her name became entwined with the mysteries of the underworld, Persephone belonged to sunlight. The ancient Greeks remembered her first as Kore, the maiden, a goddess of youth, renewal, and the quiet promise that life would return after every winter. Long before poets sang of loss and reunion, she was known for gentleness rather than power, and for compassion rather than command. Her story begins not in darkness, but in light. Among the Olympian gods, Demeter was revered as the guardian of grain, orchards, and fertile fields. To those who tilled the soil, her blessings meant survival. Every harvest, every loaf of bread, every ripened vineyard was seen as a gift from her hands. Yet despite her divine gifts, Demeter longed for something no harvest could provide: a child. Ancient traditions preserve several accounts of Persephone's birth, but many describe her as the daughter of Demeter and Zeus, king of the Olympian gods. The storytellers say that when the child was born, the world itself seemed to welcome her arrival. A warm breeze swept across the valleys. Wildflowers opened where the earth had lain bare. Birdsong echoed through the forests, and the nymphs whispered that nature had greeted one destined to shape its seasons. Demeter gathered the infant into her arms and named her Persephone. Others called her Kore, the maiden, a title that reflected innocence, youth, and the beginning of life itself. Determined that her daughter should know peace before responsibility, Demeter raised Persephone far from the rivalries of Olympus. Her childhood unfolded among flowering meadows, clear streams, ancient forests, and quiet hillsides where every season revealed a different beauty. There she learned to recognize the voices of birds, the fragrance of wildflowers, and the changing moods of the wind before she ever learned the ambitions of the gods. The creatures of the woodland showed no fear in her presence. Deer wandered close beside her, butterflies settled upon her hands, and even the shyest animals emerged from the shelter of the trees. Ancient storytellers often remarked that Persephone treated every living thing with quiet respect. Whether these details belong to history or to legend, they reveal how generations imagined her character, not as a goddess who inspired fear, but as one who inspired trust. As the years passed, Demeter became both mother and teacher. She taught Persephone that every seed carried the hope of a family, that every fruitful field was the reward of patience, and that true strength was measured not by dominion, but by care for others. Those lessons took deep root. Long before fate called her to another realm, Persephone had already learned that the greatest power is often expressed through kindness. No one, not even the gods, could yet foresee how greatly that quiet wisdom would be tested in the years to come. As the years passed, the child who had once wandered through meadows chasing butterflies grew into a young goddess whose presence seemed to brighten the world around her. The nymphs were the first to notice. Whenever Persephone entered a quiet valley, blossoms appeared more vibrant, gentle breezes carried the scent of flowers across the hills, and birds filled the forests with joyful song. Whether these marvels belonged to history or to legend, the ancient storytellers agreed on one point: Persephone possessed a gift unlike that of any other Olympian. It was not the gift of conquest or command. It was the gift of bringing peace wherever she went. She delighted in life's smallest wonders. She would pause to admire a wildflower growing from rocky ground, watch fish gliding through clear streams, or patiently return a fallen nestling to the safety of its home. To many gods, such moments seemed ordinary. To Persephone, they revealed that every living creature deserved kindness. Demeter watched her daughter with quiet pride. She had hoped Persephone would become wise. Instead, she was becoming something rarer, a goddess whose wisdom was guided by compassion. As Persephone matured, Demeter entrusted her with deeper lessons. She taught her that every season served its purpose. Winter sheltered the sleeping earth, spring awakened hidden seeds, summer nurtured growing fields, and autumn rewarded patience with abundance. Above all, she taught that every harvest represented the hopes of countless families. Persephone listened with eager attention, not because she desired authority, but because she wished to understand the delicate harmony that sustained both nature and humankind. Before long, stories of the young goddess spread across the land. Farmers claimed that fields flourished after offering prayers in her name. Travelers spoke of valleys that seemed brighter wherever she had wandered. Parents told their children that the first blossoms of spring were Persephone's gentle reminder that hope always returns. Whether these stories described miracles or simply reflected the affection people felt for her, Persephone became a symbol of renewal. She inspired devotion not through displays of power, but through quiet grace. Yet she remained humble. She sought no temples, demanded no honors, and measured happiness not by praise, but by the sight of ripened fields and the laughter of children beneath the summer sun. Ancient poets praised her beauty, comparing her eyes to mountain springs and her golden hair to sunlit wheat. Yet those who truly knew Persephone remembered something greater than beauty. They remembered her kindness. For beauty could capture the eye, but kindness captured the heart. As the maiden entered adulthood, admiration for her spread throughout both Olympus and the mortal world. Gods respected her wisdom. Nymphs cherished her friendship. Mortals spoke her name with gratitude. Yet as her reputation grew, so did Demeter's unease. She understood a truth learned through countless ages. The brightest light is often the first to draw the attention of destiny. Without fully realizing why, she became more protective of her beloved daughter. The carefree wanderings of childhood grew fewer. The joyful walks through distant meadows became carefully watched. Persephone accepted her mother's caution without question, believing it was born only of love. She could not know that beyond the peaceful valleys and flowering hills, unseen events were already unfolding. The fates, according to ancient belief, had begun weaving a new pattern, one that would transform not only Persephone's own life, but also the ancient Greek understanding of life, death, and the changing seasons. The peaceful days of the maiden were drawing quietly to their end. To all who knew Persephone, her life seemed untouched by sorrow. Each dawn bathed the hills in golden light. Each spring covered the valleys with blossoms. And each evening ended beneath the gentle songs of birds as she wandered with the nymphs through forests and flowering meadows. It appeared that nothing could disturb such perfect harmony. But destiny seldom arrives with thunder. More often, it begins with silence. The signs were so faint that few noticed them. A breeze would suddenly lose its voice. Birdsong would fade without reason. Fields alive with wildflowers would stand strangely still, as though the earth itself were holding its breath. Persephone sensed these quiet moments, but never feared them. She believed that every mystery in nature carried a meaning not yet revealed. One afternoon, as she rested beside a clear spring, an elderly shepherd approached and bowed with quiet respect. "My lady," he said, "my family has survived another winter because Demeter never abandoned our fields." Persephone smiled gently. "The harvest belongs not only to the gods," she replied, "but to every hand that faithfully tends the earth. Hope belongs to those who never stop planting." The old shepherd left with renewed courage, carrying her words as though they were a blessing. Stories like this spread across the countryside. People remembered Persephone not because she displayed overwhelming power, but because she listened. She listened to anxious farmers, weary travelers, grieving mothers, and lonely souls whose voices often went unheard. Her greatest gift was not changing every life she touched. It was making each person believe that their life mattered. Even among the gods, admiration for the maiden continued to grow. Yet while others celebrated her gentle spirit, Demeter felt an unease she could neither explain nor escape. She watched her daughter laughing among the flowers, but behind her own smile lingered a mother's quiet fear. The ancient myths offer no single reason for this foreboding. Perhaps it was a mother's instinct. Perhaps the fates had already begun weaving their invisible design. Or perhaps some destinies announced themselves only to the heart. Persephone remained unaware. She still wandered through sunlit valleys with her companions, delighting in every blossom and every butterfly that rested upon her hand. These were the brightest days of her youth, the final days before innocence gave way to destiny. Then, on a morning unlike any other, the sky shone with remarkable clarity, and a fragrant breeze drifted across the hills. The nymphs led Persephone to a meadow of breathtaking beauty, where crimson poppies, white lilies, violet irises, and golden narcissus stretched to every horizon. It seemed less a place upon the earth than a forgotten garden of the gods. As laughter echoed through the meadow, Persephone suddenly stopped. Far beyond the sea of flowers stood a single blossom unlike any she had ever seen. Its petals shimmered with an uncanny radiance. Its fragrance floated upon the air, delicate, alluring, and strangely unfamiliar. Without a word, Persephone stepped toward it. The voices of the nymphs faded behind her. Her eyes never left the mysterious flower. One step became another, and with each step, the unseen design of fate drew closer. She could not know that this single moment would forever alter her own life. And, according to ancient Greek tradition, the rhythm of the seasons themselves. For one fleeting moment, Persephone hesitated. The meadow had fallen into an eerie silence, as though the world itself were holding its breath. Then, guided by quiet curiosity, she reached forward and gently touched the flower. The earth answered. A thunderous roar shattered the silence. The meadow trembled. Birdsong vanished. The warm breeze died without warning. Then the ground split apart. From the dark chasm rose a magnificent chariot of black gold, drawn by immortal horses whose hooves echoed like thunder beneath the earth. Within it stood Hades, lord of the underworld. Ancient Greek poets did not describe him as a creature of evil, but as a solemn ruler whose hidden kingdom lay beneath the living world, a realm of immense riches, eternal silence, and unbreakable law. For ages he had ruled alone. Now his eyes rested upon Persephone. The laughter that had filled the meadow only moments before dissolved into fearful silence. She called for her companions. She cried out for her mother, but only the empty wind answered. According to one of the best-known ancient traditions, Hades carried Persephone into his chariot, and together they disappeared into the depths before anyone could intervene. As suddenly as it had opened, the earth closed once more. The meadow stood peaceful again, as though nothing had happened. Only scattered blossoms remained where the maiden had stood. The terrified nymphs fled across the valleys in search of Demeter. Far away, the goddess of harvest paused. Across mountains, forests, and flowing rivers, she believed she had heard her daughter's desperate cry. Without hesitation, she began her search. She crossed valleys and climbed barren hills. She questioned river gods, woodland spirits, wandering shepherds, and every traveler she encountered. Yet no one could tell her where Persephone had gone. Days became weeks. The goddess who had once filled the world with abundance no longer noticed ripening grain or blooming orchards. Every thought belonged to her missing daughter. As Demeter's sorrow deepened, the earth reflected her grief. Fields withered, fruit shriveled upon the branches, leaves surrendered to the wind. The warmth of the living world slowly faded. To the ancient Greeks, this was the first winter, not merely a season of cold, but a mother's heartbreak written across the face of the earth. Meanwhile, far below the world of sunlight, Persephone entered a kingdom unlike anything she had known. No sun shone there. Yet the underworld possessed its own solemn beauty. Crystal rivers glimmered beneath vaulted caverns. Palaces carved from stone sparkled with hidden jewels. Silent gardens nurtured flowers unknown to the world above. Hades ruled this realm not through cruelty, but through unwavering order and ancient law. Persephone looked upon this unfamiliar kingdom with wonder, uncertainty, and longing. Her heart remained with the bright meadows she had left behind, yet fate had placed her upon a path from which there could be no easy return. Above, a mother searched without rest. Below, a lonely king watched in silence. And between those two worlds stood Persephone, the young goddess whose destiny would forever change the rhythm of nature and the meaning of the seasons. The world above grew colder with every passing day. Golden fields fell silent beneath gray skies. Fruit withered upon the branches. Birdsong faded from the forests, rivers slowed, and frost covered the hills where flowers had once bloomed. The earth seemed to mourn with Demeter. She refused to return to Olympus until her daughter was found. According to the ancient myths, her grief became so profound that even Zeus, king of the gods, understood that the balance of the world itself was beginning to fail. Without harvests, humanity could not survive. Without humanity, the bond between gods and mortals would be broken. The search could not continue forever. So Zeus sent Hermes, the swift messenger of Olympus, to the underworld with a single command: bring Persephone home. Hermes descended into the silent kingdom beneath the earth and found a goddess transformed. The carefree maiden of the meadows was gone. In her place stood a woman of quiet dignity, shaped by sorrow, wisdom, and resilience. She had discovered that light and darkness were not always enemies. Sometimes each gave meaning to the other. Hades received Hermes with solemn respect. Understanding the suffering that had spread across the world, he agreed that Persephone should return. But before she departed, he offered her a pomegranate. Its crimson seeds gleamed like polished rubies. Persephone tasted a few of them. In Greek mythology, that simple act carried lasting consequences. Whoever accepted the food of the underworld became forever bound to its realm. A new balance had to be forged. Zeus declared that Persephone would spend part of each year beside Demeter beneath the warmth of the sun, where fields would flourish, blossoms would awaken, and spring would once again embrace the earth. For the remaining months, she would return to the underworld. Then leaves would fall, the air would grow cold, and the world would rest until mother and daughter were reunited. To the ancient Greeks, this was not merely a myth. It was the sacred rhythm of nature itself, an explanation for the changing seasons, and a reminder that every winter carries within it the promise of spring. In time, Persephone came to embody two seemingly opposite worlds. She remained the Maiden of Spring, yet also became the wise queen of the underworld. She understood both the joy of beginnings and the mystery of endings. Few figures in Greek mythology carried such profound symbolism. Perhaps that is why her story has endured for more than 2 millennia. It is more than the tale of a goddess. It is the story of innocence transformed into wisdom, of love tested by separation, of hope surviving even the darkest season. And every year, when the first blossoms break through the frozen earth, the ancient legend seems to bloom once more. It reminds us that no winter is endless. No darkness lasts forever. And just as Persephone returns with every spring, hope has a remarkable way of finding its path back to the human heart. As one legend ends, countless others still wait to be uncovered. If stories like this awaken your sense of wonder, you're always welcome to join us on the next journey into the extraordinary. Until then, keep wondering.